This week we're reading The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, otherwise known as Praying for a Grace Draven Holly Black collab.
Hi readers, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine, the book pod where we celebrate the heroines we love
and roast the ones we don't. We'll be your TBR FGMs.
Fairy godmothers.
And find you the best 5-star reads, the spiciest romance, and save you from the overhyped DNFs.
So grab your favorite drink and get cozy. Welcome to Season 3.
Jordan has opinions.
I do, and I feel disappointed in myself for the opinions I do have about this book.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was a little introspective. Don't know how I feel about that. Also, hello, readers. If you are listening to us today on Monday, April 28th, we are recording today. It's a first for us, I think.
Yeah, oopsie. I went on vacation. I'm very sorry.
But don't be sorry. That vacation was well-deserved.
Mm-hmm.
But we are here. We're just posting a little late tonight, so thank you for sticking with us, readers. And welcome to the Queen of Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a bit of nothing going on in this book.
God damn. It is so funny. Okay, I will let you get out all of your feelings, and then we'll end on the, opposite perspective.
Oh, God. Okay, so a few general notes from me on this book before we kind of get into the synopsis like we usually do, readers. Jude annoyed the shit out of me in this book because she went from, in the first book, she was kind of unlikable, and then you grow to like her and realize that she suffered and she's grown stronger. And then she makes some idiotic, internal monologue decisions where she's contemplating, I'm not going to spoil anything right now, readers, but really? It seemed at times out of character and oh, no, this is why I didn't like you in the beginning. Adios, Jude.
Sure. I could see that.
And Taryn, I wanted Taryn to have a full circle, repair herself. I wanted to like Taryn. No, she becomes a fucking publicist, an interior decorator, pick out my outfit so I impress people.
Honestly, though, she was kind of reduced to just about that. A personal shopper.
And that's such a disservice to what she goes through. The girl is, she gets pregnant and murders her husband. I don't care about spoiling that. I'll find that out really quick. She designs the throne room and picks out Jude's outfits. That's her role in this book.
That is true. Jeez. Do you have any more contentious opinions?
I have the whole list here. I'll just get them out. Heather sticking around, check the box happily ever after just because everyone's got to end up with someone.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy, I'll be honest.
And Madoc. Really, I wanted Madoc to go out in blazing glory, tries to take out as many people as he can because that's Madoc. And no, he's just all right, I'm going to put my sword down and I'm going to go retire, collect my pension in the human world.
That is true. He should have died, I feel like, at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we really didn't have any major character deaths, now that I think about it. I don't think anybody, actually died. Because even the roach, he got poisoned or whatever, but he, made it out alive.
The Wicked King seemed way darker and more mature. And your thoughts on, The Cruel Prince and the Wicked King, where you say this is, sits firmly in YA.
Mm-hmm.
This book seemed like pure YA to me.
Really?
Where everything has an easy solution. Nothing tragic happens. It seemed like an easy bow tying everything up together when it could have ended with still a happy ending. Because don't get me wrong, I'm a romance reader. I like a happily ever after. But I want them to earn it. And this just seemed kind of spoon-fed to the reader.
I can see that. That's fair. Because our readers know I've been listening to almost exclusively audiobooks for the last really long time. This was the first one, because I was on vacation, that I actually got to read. And I don't know if it's the magic of actually reading a book after a long time, or if it's just Holly Black is just, the OG of fantasy. But it had that magical, I don't even know how to explain it, where it's, the world seems a little bit wilder and a little bit more magical and deep summer where you, like, look in the corner of your eye and you're like, "What the fuck was that? I don't know." It had, like, that, like, consistency to it, so just, like, reading this book, I was like, "Oh my god, like, this is what fantasy is meant to be, dude." So I probably turned off the, like, comprehensive thinking part of my brain and was like, "Oh my god, they're, like, figuring it all out. Oh my gosh, happy ending, like, do." So
I
I just, like, full into it, no thoughts, apparently.
No, see, I can appreciate that perspective and that like, the vibe of the book
Mhm.
because that's exactly how I felt reading it. Because I don't wanna downplay the skill of the world building and, like, the plot development. Like, I just have an issue with the characters, and that's a good thing 'cause it's still readable, I still finished it, and it's funny you, like, described it as a summer day where something out of the corner of your eye, just like, "Oh, maybe that's a fairy." Like, I was 100% 70-degree weather out in my deck with
Oh.
several cocktails just devouring this book, which is, I think, the way you need to read this trilogy in the first place.
Yeah.
Just be a little tipsy.
Mhm. And I wonder, so, to posit a question to you, do you think that the characters everything, like, wrapping up so easy and the characters, having an out, do you think that is a reason or the I don't know what words I'm trying to find. Um, you'll get what I'm trying to say, but, like, is it because it's YA or does that make it YA? So, like, consequence or diagnosis?
Hmm.
Those are not the right words, but you know what I mean.
No, I don't think the easy solutions make it YA. I think it's how they were delivered.
Mm.
It's kinda hard to talk around this without getting into the synopsis. So, spoiler readers. So, when Cardan turns into a gigantic snake, and we're trying to figure out how to save him, and Jude gets to the point where she's like, "Alright, I guess I'm just gonna kill you," and then he's saved, and it's fine. I'm okay with that ending, and I'm glad that's how it wrapped up, but I felt like there should have been more fallout maybe, or lead up or afterwards, like, this makes it seems YA to me because of the level of detail and the level of introspection you get. It's not a lot. It's a lot of, like, "This happened, and this happened, and this happened." Dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. "This happened, this happened, this happened." It's, like, very easy to process, read through, get all the digestible points, and then, like, "Okay, great, you know the story." I think in something like, to overuse a reference, Daughter of the Forest, there's not a lot of plot points that happen, but the ones that do happen, you have a lot of description, a lot of reflection from the characters on, like, the consequences of their own action, and I think what we're missing here is that internal monologue from the characters themselves.
I could see that because as you're talking, I immediately started thinking about ACOTAR because I feel like this final scene with Cardan and the snake and Jude kind of parallels ACOTAR at the end when Feyre has to kill Tamlin. And we do get a lot of like deep introspection during that portion. Like it's almost like excessively drawn out, but you like feel all of the emotions that Feyre is feeling as she's trying to like, oh my God, I'm killing people. And then, oh my God, now I have to kill Tamlin. I think it would have been better maybe if Jude had that same kind of, like, deep introspection because she kinda did about the whole bridal thing, but maybe not to the degree of, like, really feeling the emotional side of it, but that's kind of in line with her character, though, so I don't know.
Well, that might be if we had more, like, of internal glimpse into how Jude is processing that, like, I'm okay with her being a little
Mm,
callous about the bridal thing, but I needed more of it, otherwise she just comes across as callous without any, like, yes, she wants the bridal because years of feeling insecure with her own family and her own emotional state, and she's lacks control, so the bridal represents control, and she wants to exercise control around everything around her. We don't get a lot of that.
mm,
But your point about ACOTAR is fascinating because that is exactly what that is. It's the same kind of development, plot points, happily ever after, but
mhm,
you get to live in the character's head more.
yeah. Wow. Jeez. I wonder, do you think
Well done,
actually
Katie.
doesn't, like, particularly like those drawn out introspective moments? Because 'Cause you've read Tithe, but I feel like the other 2, we don't really get a lot of introspection really from Jude or any of the other characters. And this is
Honestly,
written in first person too.
yeah, I think that's just kind of a trademark of Holly Black's writing style.
Yeah.
She delivers edgy, gritty fairy tales with a little bit more depth, that's kind of underplaying what Holly Black is doing
Yeah.
here, right? Like, she is a mastermind in romantasy and the fantasy world building, but it is very much a YA sense of like, "Okay, I'm just gonna flesh this out just long enough to hold the reader's attention span and then check back out."
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like this is the perfect book to read when you are in that, like, slightly older middle school age, where it's like you're kind of grown out of YA almost, but that's sort of your story comprehension level is in that area, but then it kinda gives you a little bit of the, like, actual in-depth romance, and then you have, not necessarily a fade to black sex scene, but kind of. I feel
Almost,
like it's like
yeah.
that 8th grade, ninth grade, maybe, YA book, which is crazy because I wouldn't have thought that, especially with the freaky girl queen bridal sewn into her
Mhm.
fate. That ugh, it gave me the heebie-jeebies.
But that's true. I think if I kind of think back to how I read at that age, you just wanted to process and, like, digest as much as you possibly could, so you're just inhaling these books, and you're not looking like I feel like a teenager would get bored of a lot of introspection,
Mhm.
whereas an
I could
adult
see
reader
that.
would not.
Mhm. Well, I feel like your brain isn't developed enough to think about
You
itself in the 3rd
you
person,
can't even think about your own brain at that
No.
age.
Yeah, things are just on autopilot until you get to, like, 23, 24, and then you're like, "Oh, shit, like, I have to think about things?" That's when you
Yeah.
read Daughter of the Forest, and you're like, "God, this introspection, man."
So, I guess there's good and bad about The Queen of Nothing, and
Mhm.
I guess bottom line is just enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it delivers, and it's a good story
I could see
with
that,
some
yeah. It was surprisingly short, too. I was caught off
mhm,
guard, it's only 300 pages.
which is the average length for these kinds of stories,
Yeah.
honestly, like, in traditional publishing, 15 years ago, and
Mhm.
now we have these monster 700-page, like no. Okay, shall we?
Mhm. Jump into it. I don't know why it
What
sounded
what
so
voice was that?
dramatic.
Jump into it.
It came out of my mouth, and I'm like, "Who the fuck was that?"
Okay, readers, Jude is in the human world, and she's not doing too hot. She's taking odd jobs, like killing fairies and taking care of, like, odds and ends around there,
Mm,
and one of her first chores is she goes and meets, like, a goat-headed fairy who's living on the brinks of society. He's kinda like a I don't know how to describe this.
like a gangster fixer, like
Yeah, he's
gangster was
got
the word that came to mind.
pretty much, but like a 1920s
Yeah,
mob gangster.
like Tony.
Yeah. And he says, "Hey, by the way, I need you to go, like, here's $500. There's a fairy eating people. I need you to go take care of it." And Judy's like, "Well, originally," he's like, "Oh, I can handle that. Think a fairy eating humans, that happens all the time." And no, it is not that. It is a fairy eating other fairies, straight up cannibalism. And Jude pauses for a second. She's like, I'm gonna need some more money if we're gonna do that."
Mhm. And it's
So
crazy too because after all of the events of, what happens next, she's like, "Fuck this dude. I need way more money for whatever the fuck that was." I feel like this
because
happens a lot, like, in everybody's life where you're like, "What the fuck did I sign up for?"
right? This is not in the contract.
No.
So she goes to this place where she expects this fairy to be, and she meets the Grima Mog? Is that the name?
I don't know.
How
I
do you
didn't audiobook this one, so I can't fact check our
Oh,
pronunciation.
no, it's like our first episodes with Crown Jewel.
Oh god.
So the Grima Mog is this fierce red cap, very like Madoc, so she is a embittered grandma who can kill you and eat you. And
Mhm.
so Jude goes into her apartment and she's like, "Hey, can you stop eating people?" And she's like, "Well, no, they taste good. Go look in my fridge." And Jude goes to the fridge and there's, body parts in the
Traumatizing.
fridge. Yeah. And then Jude sees, as she's looking for it, this hat box on top of the fridge. She's like, "Huh, that's interesting." So she pulls it down and it's the red cap, which is the hat that red caps dip in the blood of their enemies and lets it dry and they just make many layers of blood. Gross. So Jude pulls out a lighter. She's like, "All right, you're gonna stop killing people, or I'm gonna set your hat on fire." Which I really appreciated this scene. I thought this was fun. This is the Jude that you like.
I feel like it's one of the actual in line with her character where she's the one making these decisions to move the plot forward and, like, taking control almost, like, the very callous, like, "I am I grew up in Faerie, I know how to play these games, go fuck yourself," and they're like, "What?"
Yeah, that's exactly how they respond. And the Grandma Mog she's a little panicked because it's her beloved hat. And so she tells Jude, "Hey, let's duel. Let's make this fair. Duel to the first whoever calls it off first because they originally say first blood, but that's boring." And they agree to just go duel until one of them cries out. And they go up to the rooftop. They start fighting. Jude straight up throws the hat at the Grandma Mog just to distract her and then beats her with a pipe, I think,
Mhm.
and wins.
Yep,
And I think I got the impression, I don't know about you, that the Grandma Mog kind of, like, threw the duel a little bit just because she was having so much fun.
I could see that. I feel like it was I don't know about that necessarily, but I feel like it was interesting to get Jude's not desperation for something to be like Fairy, but she's just living this kind of like blah existence. I think the first scene opens, she's eating fish sticks in front of the TV. She's
Yeah,
like,
that's
I'm the
right.
queen of Elfame. What the fuck am I doing right now? But then it's like you see why she makes these rash decisions because she's like, I miss the adrenaline rush and the craziness and like constantly being, throwing myself into danger. And she's like, sure, I will fight this immortal fairy who has, generations of war fighting experience that I do not have. Like, let's fucking do it. And I think it's Grandma Mog's like, okay, like you're kind of spunky. I like you. Against my will. You almost burned my hat, but eh.
I really like the Grima Mog, and, in exchange for, defeating her in the duel, the Grima Mog offers some, like, intel to Jude, which is, "Hey, by the way, Carden, your husband. Well, you didn't know that they're married, but Carden, there's an assassination attempt." She doesn't reveal who, but there's an assassination attempt in every book against Carden. So, nothing new, but Jude kinda like, "Alright, well, that sucks to be him." So she goes back to her apartment, and lo and behold, our favorite sister Taryn has stumbled in from Fairy looking absolutely stunning, as Taryn usually does, but it's really weird that she's sitting in the apartment with Vivi and Oak and Jude. And I actually this is the scene that I actually really liked about Taryn, which Taryn's like, "So, we've been having some parties and some marriage issues, and I killed him, I killed Locke, so I'm gonna need you to take my place in Fairy because you can lie and glamours don't work on you, and they wanna hold a trial for me, and I'd be in big trouble."
Yeah. It's interesting now that you're talking through it. I feel like this was all of the previous times we've interacted with Taryn, it seems like she's kind of immortal in fairy, and she's always treated as a human and acts like a human, like, always trying to, like, "Oh, if you just let them do whatever, they'll treat you fine and they won't bully you or whatever." But I feel like her killing Locke was one of the first times that she's, like, actually steps into maybe being that kind of, like, fairy mortal weird hybrid. Because I mean, like, that's not a really mortal decision to just straight up murder your husband because he's being annoying. Like, she's like, "Okay, you're done, dude."
And we find out a little bit later is we're kinda jumping the timeline a little bit, but when Jude accepts this plan to go back to Fairy and, like, take Terran's place in court, like, it's gonna be a quick trip, she's gonna fly there and get dressed up, she's gonna lie, and then she's gonna go right back home. But in the course of her, going back to Fairy, she goes to the Lock Castle
Mhm.
where Terran used to live, and she sees the mansion, and basically they've been having orgies
Yep.
and parties all the time, and it's a little like, "Okay, well, so I knew my sister was really into fairy, I didn't realize she was that into fairy, or they
Yeah.
were that into her." But
I thought it was interesting though, because this is another moment where I feel like Jude was underestimating Taryn, and then all of a sudden she's confronted with reality and she's like, wow, I don't know my sister at all. Like I was so kind of set in my own world and like dealing with my own problems that Taryn has turned into a completely different person that I don't even like really know anymore. So it's like an interesting, I think it kind of gives Taryn some depth that she was maybe lacking in the other two books, that she kind of had her own plot line that we don't really know anything about.
and that's a continuing theme throughout all 3 books is that Taryn serves as this, like, two-way mirror for Jude where,
Mm,
like, she displays all of these things that Jude is not, but Jude could be,
yeah.
um, which makes Jude very uncomfortable,
It's like an alternate reality, like seeing a different, future for yourself that you could have had, but then
Mhm.
chose something that would be trippy. I don't know that I would like that.
Yeah, and that's why Jude is so fucked up throughout this book, throughout all 3 books.
Mhm.
Well, she she returns to Faerie, she gets dressed up, she's very careful because she and Taryn have traded places quite a bit, so but she's a little nervous because she's going to the court of Faerie and King Cardan is going to look right at her, and she's been very intimate with Cardan, so I don't know about you, I would be a little pissed off if, like, my partner, my husband could not tell me apart from my twin, but Jude was a little naive, I think, in this moment
Yeah.
because she she straight up walks into the throne room and just, "It's fine. I'm Taryn. No one's gonna know any better."
Yep.
And we all know that this is not how this plays out. Like, this is a very predictable moment in the book. And what I wanted
Yeah, predictable. I wasn't
Really?
immediately I giggled as soon as, he pulled her into the room and he's like, "You think I wouldn't recognize you?" And I'm like, "Oh, Garden."
That's cute. I guess what I wanted more because especially since this is from Jude's perspective only, I want more of her nerves and her uncertainty, like, her sitting in that throne room, and I want Cardan to play with her a little bit, like, I definitely think you're Taryn, but I don't." I just wanted more of that tension, like, there was so many opportunities for building the romantic tension between Jude and Cardan, this would have been an amazing scene to do it, and it's
Mhm.
over in, like, a chapter.
Yeah. I feel like you want the new adult romantic-y version of this book. They're all a little
100%.
bit older, a little bit, like, romance more, maybe some, like, explicit sex scenes, but more focus on the tension than all this, like, crazy plot shit that's happening.
I want Grace Draven. That's what I want. I'll be reading that next.
Ooh,
That's
oh
what
my god.
that is.
Wow, could you imagine, like, a Grace Draven, Holly Black team up on
Oh my god, please, can we encourage this?
yeah,
Can this please
yeah,
happen?
god, could you whoa, ooh, ooh.
Mhm.
God, that'd be crazy. That would be this
The perfect
romantic-y, new
marriage,
age
yeah.
yeah, God. Anyways, he obviously knew it was Jude. Even says, he's like, "Do you think I'm a fucking idiot?" And she's like, "Oh."
Yeah, but he escorts her back into his rooms, and on the way to his rooms, this fairy maid kind of stumbles into Jude, and as she's stumbling into her, she shoves a dagger up Jude's sleeve, and she's like, "Whoa, who's helping me now? This is kind of uncomfortable." But they make it to Cardan's rooms, and Cardan's first question to Jude is, "Hey, did you get my letters?" Which Jude's like, "What fucking letters?" That killed me a little bit
Mhm. 'Cause
because
is there a bonus chapter somewhere that has the letters?
no, and it's written like those letters exist and you should be able to read them. Can you imagine what those letters contained?
Oh god, girl, I can't. Especially when he describes it later and he's like, "Oh, just a bunch of, like, silly daydreams and silly promises that I definitely shouldn't have made." And I'm like, "I wanna read the silly promises you shouldn't have made." I thought this was a bonus chapter though, that like,
There is a bonus chapter
read.
at the end, but it's not that.
Dang. What am I thinking of? Hmm.
Well, then there's an explosion, and Madoc's guards come rushing in, and Jude was supposedly supposed to kill Cardan with the dagger. She definitely does not do that, but she does get captured by Madoc, who's really trying to rescue her because he thinks it's Taryn, which I thought was kind of sweet.
Yep. But also, what a fucking it would irritate the shit out of me that I had this perfectly laid out plan, and it's like, "Perfect, awesome, we're gonna kill Cardan, and then we're gonna snatch Terran back, and everything's gonna be good." And it's like, just because they traded spots, like, the plan completely falls apart.
It's this was a very fast-paced section of the book, like from beginning to the point where Jude is captured, and she wakes up in a carriage with Oriana, I believe.
Mhm, mhm.
So Jude, Oriana, Madoc, everyone still thinks that she's Taryn, and so they're like one big happy family again. Madoc kind of reveals all his plans that he's aligned himself with the Court of Teeth, with Lord and Lady, what's their name? The
I
evil couple.
yeah, from the Court of Teeth.
Mhm. And they are planning to overthrow the kingdom again. Great. This is more
Mhm,
of the same stuff that we saw in book 2.
mhm.
But They've also aligned themselves with Grimson, who is the smith that we met in The Wicked King, who designed the crown, the blood crown or something.
Mhm.
And what we did not learn before was that the crown is cursed. So not only can only a member of the Greenbrier line wear the crown, but I think if the crown gets broken, then whoever breaks it shall suffer bad things.
Yeah. 'Cause I thought that was a fun little tidbit that Holly Black dropped pretty early because then it becomes like a reoccurring theme a little bit that everybody thought Grimson's, metalworkings were miracles and crazy and beautiful, but he's just such an egotistical prick that they all kind of have a curse on them if you do anything. Then it comes up with, like, Queen Orlag and all of that craziness, and then also his earring. Cardan's earring was
Oh,
going to murder
the
him.
snake bite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fun little, aside.
As a, like, note to self, like, don't work with the evil smith. I mean, he just doesn't make nice things.
What?
Weird. But she also finds out that Madoc is keeping the ghost, who is the member of the Court of Shadows that betrayed her in The Wicked King, and the
Mhm.
ghost is being held captive in a cave, and it's pretty naughty.
Yeah, yeah. And then she also finds out that they have his true name, which comes up later, that somebody learned it and then Madoc got it from them, and so they have complete full control of the ghost and all of his, decision making, and if they say to do something, he has to go and do it. So Jude, like, comes up with this, like, whole plan to break him out, and she's like, "You're a dickhead, but, it wasn't your own decision, so we're gonna make it out alive, and then you'll deal with the consequences." And he's like, "You need to leave now." She's like, "No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna leave you." And then chaos ensues.
Because who shows up but Madoc? Madoc and company, and they realize that it is not Taryn, it is Jude, and so they get into a huge duel battle, like, to the death.
Mhm.
Maybe it should have ended there,
Oh,
but
please.
for
Oh, wait,
Madoc,
with
come on.
oh, okay, okay, I thought you meant, like, Jude dying. I'm like, "Girl, what the fuck?"
No, but it's going on, and it seems like Jude is losing very badly, like, she has, like, a gut wound, and it is
Yeah.
not not good, and then just in time, Heather oh, did we skip a part? Doesn't Cardan sneak in?
Yeah, but I feel like that is earlier. Yeah, Carden wakes her up in the middle of the night, and he's like, "I'm here to rescue you," and she's like, "I have some shit I have to do, but thank you." And so they steal a key, and then he, like, dips out, and then she's going to rescue the ghost, and then he's not there, and it's just Madoc, and he's like, "You fucking bitch," and she's like, "Uh-oh."
That's right, because that was kind of a cute little reveal where Jude wakes up in her tent in Madoc's camp, and there's a hand over her mouth, and she, like, is struggling to figure out what's going on, and then she recognizes Cardan, but Cardan is, like, in his cool rogue shadow mode with dark cloak and dagger, and he's learned to do, like, non-kingly things, like, "Oh, this is a fun turn for Cardan."
Mhm. He has a
So,
purpose.
"Aw, buddy got a job."
Literally, though.
But he splits, and then he makes, like, he reappears with Heather not Heather's the girlfriend, with
Mhm.
Vivian and
Taryn.
Taryn and the Grimamog.
Mhm.
So they
Yep.
all come to rescue Jude, and it works. So they get her away, but
She
she's still
almost dies, though.
yeah, so she's still dying because of that gut wound is bleeding out, so they put her on the ground, and Jude has this moment where she's like, "You know what? Maybe this'll work," and so she prays to the land, and the land heals her because she has Taryn pack her wound with dirt. Huh? Did
Yeah.
not didn't
Mm,
need that description.
no.
But the earth heals her because she is the queen of faerie, and the
Mhm.
way can call on the magic of the land is the same way she can kind of leverage the same magic. So, readers, I think this is a good stopping point for us. So, we'll see you next week for the Red Queen of Nothing and from our shelf.
Ooh. We'll see you on the next page. Hi, readers. Like what you've been hearing? Check out the Spice Archive at notanotherheroine.com to see all of our reviews and ratings. And if you'd like to support our growing library, find us on Patreon and get access to exclusive bonus content.
If you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.